everybody. Good afternoon to my California friends, and good early morning to everybody in Australia and China and elsewhere, Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia. Welcome, friends in Vietnam. My name is Heng Shi. Today, here in California, is Friday, September 1st. It's September 2nd in those countries I just mentioned. And today we are about to launch into our next lecture in our series of investigations into the life of Master Xuyun, Master Empty Cloud, as illustrated by the picture biography of Master Empty Cloud. So let us begin with 3 half bows from wherever you're sitting. And if you're willing to join me, please do. I'm going to ring the bell 3 times. We'll make 3 half bows. Then we'll invite Paul to do the Dharma request. Okay, so here we go. Let's see, original set. There we go. 3 half bows. First bow. And the second bow. And the third bow. All right. Paul, if you would like to request Dharma, please do so now.
恭请大德圣听，为此法会及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死离苦得乐。速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and in birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto suchedoye alahadi samyao samputoshe.
Namo satanto suchedoye alahati samyao sambuddhosye.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. All right, Paul, I appreciate the Dharma request. Last week we had to cancel the lecture, so those of you who are wondering whether you missed one section of the picture biography, in fact, you didn't. We had a sudden event that required my attendance, and I had to kind of on the spot decide to cancel a lecture. So we are here today. There will be probably 100 of us from all over the world. And I'd like to say hello to our friends in Ukiah at City of 10,000 Buddhas, at Pinole, in Ukiah, our friends in the Gold Coast, especially our volunteers who are translating early in the morning into Mandarin. 我们非常感恩哈。 And there's also a Vietnamese translation available. If people would like to look in the chat box, you can find a link to our Vietnamese translation. 我们还有普通话的翻译，有义工很发心，很早在澳大利亚就帮忙翻译中文。那个你们想听中文的话，那个控制板的右下角有办法可以 click 到那里就可以听到中文，还有越南文的翻译。Good. And you see, we have Cascade, Colorado, San Leandro, California, Campbell, California, Danville, California, Hong Kong. And we have San Francisco, California, Saratoga, California. We have Montreal in Quebec. We have Round Rock, Texas, Oslo, Norway, Tracy, California, Alameda, California, Berkeley, Los Altos, Peoria, Arizona, Jinfosher, Hama, Amitofo. We have Indonesia. We have City of 10,000 Buddhists, Seattle, Washington. We've got Switzerland. We have Shenzhen, China. Dharma Realm Buddhist University, Kitty Sorrow is here. And we have Stockton, California, Singapore, San Jose, San Francisco, London, UK, Mesa, Arizona, Oslo, Norway, Elk Grove, California, San Ramon. Gee, we cover a lot of California, I must say. Let's see, Sao Paulo, Brazil, Hanoi, Vietnam. Let's see, in Virginia, Sydney, Australia, Harbin, Guangzhou, Lanhai, Suzhou, Jilin, Shandong, Hebei, 还有包头内蒙古 Inner Mongolia. Oh my goodness. 深圳、南海、朝阳、Shanghai, South San Francisco. There we go. Welcome everybody. 非常欢迎各位。Okay, let's see here. The Vietnamese translation link did not come through. It just says translation link and there isn't one. So did we lose part of the paste in there? Okay. Alrighty. Excellent. Moving forward, what have we got? We have our invocation when it's an Avatamsaka lecture, but it's not. It's a picture biography. So we are going to acknowledge country for here in the Bay Area of California, and they were the Ohlone people. So we say the Chochechno Ohlone people practice spiritual connections to the earth and to all creation here on their ancestral land for tens of thousands of years. Today we acknowledge them as traditional custodians and original storytellers of these lands. We offer our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. 就是说，就前有欧罗尼人在他们祖先的土地上修炼着他们与土地和万物的精神联系，已有数万年。今天我们承认他们是这些土地的传统监护人和原始讲故事的人，并且向他们过去、现在和新兴的长老们，我们表示敬意，以及主权从未被割让。所有的第一民族人民们，我们表示敬意。Good, we did. Do we want to do the bell sound? Of course we do. Why not? Here we go. The bell song. Ready? English version. The bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000界内，佛法扬万亿国中，共训启法界和平，利益报贪厚德。And we're done. Excuse me, done with the preliminaries. We can put the slideshow away. Do that. Alrighty. Now we've got the Vietnamese link. There it is. Thanks. Bye. Okay. Let's first today talk about when where Master Empty Cloud was coming from. A little bit of biography. I'm going to put this away temporarily. Put you down there. Um, this is important, I think, to really get a sense of the significance of this monk. Um, when he came into the world, it was 1840. So the American Civil War broke out in 1860. If he'd been in America, he would have been exactly the age to go pick up a gun and fight the Civil War. He wasn't. He was born in China, 1840. The Opium War began, and Hong Kong was given to Great Britain. Just a piece of China was handed off to a foreign power because they were unhappy that the Chinese didn't want opium to be circulated in China. They wanted the commercial benefits of poisoning the Chinese people. That's the unhappy but true story of the source of the Opium War. So that's another topic, but this is the chaotic times that Master Empty Cloud was born into. His surname was Xiao, which interestingly enough is the same surname as Emperor Liang of the Emperor Wu of the Liang dynasty. So Liang Wudi, the storied emperor before the Tang dynasty, was also a member of the Xiao clan. So Master Empty Cloud had roots back to an imperial family. His father was a public servant, and we're going to find out today that he was that rarest of animals, that most difficult to encounter, uh, a, an official with clean sleeves, qing xiuzi, they call him, someone who was not corrupted and who did not take bribes, but who administered his public duties with kindness instead. So we'll find out about that. So look at Buddhism. Um, Master Empty Cloud saw the arrival of foreign powers and their dominance in China. He saw 5 different emperors of the Manchu dynasty rise and fall, finally to collapse in 1911. He saw the Republican era take shape and all of the changes in China, which led to China at the time being called the sick man of Asia, Yazhou Bingfu. What many leading intellectuals thought was the solution for China's trouble then was science, they thought. They saw how Western gunboats could sail up the Yangtze River, the Changjiang, and blast away with advanced cannons and destroy Chinese fortresses and civilization and what do you say? The defenses, the military defenses, were utterly destroyed by the progress in weapons technology. And the Chinese thought, how come we've allowed ourselves to be so 落后, so far behind in terms of what the rest of the modern world has developed for progressive cruelty of weapons technology, right? Of armaments. So, um, one of the things that got labeled as the barrier to Chinese progress was Buddhism. Now you see where we're going with this. Take a look here. The waves of modernism sweeping China at this time were not sympathetic towards Buddhism or other traditional teachings. They were called the olds, OLDS in quotes. They were old things. Science and science was what was needed, and Buddhism was in the way. So at that time, monasteries were falling on hard times. Government support for Buddhism was very minimal, scanty, and uh, there were famines, droughts, epidemics, and war at the time. The Japanese invaded, the communists arose. So all of these issues uh, plagued China at the time that Master Empty Cloud was born. So for him to come forward as the son of an official, the son of a public servant, and decide that he wanted to cultivate the way and chose to put his life energy into Buddhism was a source of great tension for his family. What did he do? He revived Buddhism. He injected new energy. He brought Buddhism back to life in China at the end of the 19th and the first half of the 20th century. He rebuilt Yunxi, Nanhua, Yunmen, Zhenru, all these huge Chan monasteries and countless smaller temples. He built schools and hospitals. He took disciples from as far south as Penang, Malaysia, and Thailand, all the way to Tibet. The king of Thailand became his disciple. He lived to be 120 years old. He made a pilgrimage that is fabled and storied in Chinese history. He was indeed enlightened and wrote two enlightenment poems as during that experience. And he founded the Chinese Buddhist Association, the Buddhist Association of China, and he negotiated for peace among warring armies as a political diplomat and ambassador. So, what a remarkable, remarkable man. Just to give us a kind of a context to understand how important the life of this one Buddhist monk, this humble Buddhist monk, was. Here is our text today. Something wonderful is about to happen. A blessed event. Let me read it first in Chinese. It's called 同德奇异照。一日玉堂扶起，见似巧，功成完竣，神悦。世系同梦一照青袍，修染之长者，头顶观音，跨湖而来。正月他上，尽兴胡告，此事虽有身，喜念佛，诵经拜忏等亲近善知识，远离诸恶法，越善不捐。Okay, there we go. And the verse says, 跨湖入台世间稀，顶上出现降伏区，觉悟同论情精进，常精进，普度寒湿不休息。Got it? Shifu's verses are so good. All right, everybody take a look at the photo. Not the photo, the painting, the etching, the drawing. What do you see? You see a palisade wall. You see a family compound wall that needs repair. You see mountain background. It's night. There's a crescent moon. There's clouds, so there's probably dreaming going on. There are two. What are these two guys doing out here with their grass hats, their drum, and their instrument? They are the night watchmen going around saying, third watch, beware of fire. That's what they would say. Sangang jiao ho. And the stem ends of the dreamy landscape go into a bedroom. So, a dream is happening. All right, the big thing in the center of the photo is a tiger. And there's a very interesting gentleman riding the tiger, looking very comfortable on a tiger's back, and on his head he has an image of Guanyin Bodhisattva. All right, got the picture. Seeing the same rare portent. One day, Mr. and Mrs. Yutang were pleased to see that the construction of the temple and the bridge had been completed according to design. That evening, they both dreamt of a dark-robed, long-bearded, sagely cultivator who, astride a tiger, and with Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva atop his head, pounced upon the bed. Startled awake, oh yeah, they recounted their experience to each other. Afterwards, Mrs. Yutang was pregnant. They happily recited the Buddha and drew near good and wise advisors. Leaving evil dharmas far behind, they engaged in charitable deeds without weariness. And the verse says, astride a tiger, entering the womb, came one seldom found in the world. Manifesting atop his head was the compassionate hero's form, enlightening 5 kinds of fellow beings with ever-advancing vigor. He went everywhere, saving those with sentience, and never stopped to rest. Nice. All right, so, goodness, Mr. and Mrs. Yutang were pleased to see that the good works they had done. Last time, we heard that they were repairing a temple and a bridge, both. So this is a traditional recipe for good deeds. You want to do good deeds? Then repair a road, repair a bridge, repair waterworks, something that the work from which benefits all of the neighbors. That's the way you plant blessings. So that, and when one does that sort of thing, in the future, the rewards for that kind of service to the community is you are held in high esteem, and you have plenty of necessities of life, and people's reputation, your people admire you. You find yourself in positions of leadership very easily. So definitely, if you know somebody in your neighborhood who answers that description, there's a really good chance that in the past they have done such good deeds. So now it manifests as goodness back for them. All right. So now let's take a look. What else? A dream, a weird dream. This guy comes at night and through the roof into the room, and he's riding a tiger and he's got a bodhisattva on his head. What do you do in that circumstance? You go, wake up, what's going on? And they had the same dream. And here is truly something miraculous. The result was the wife was pregnant. Happily, first thing they did was recite the Buddha's name and go find Buddhist teachers to share their miracle. And they continued to do good. Typo here, good and wise advisors. Never mind. We take note of those typos. We don't worry about them. Okay, verse. Riding a tiger, entering the womb, comes somebody special. Appearing on top of head was the compassionate hero who? Guanyin. 5 kinds of fellow beings with ever-advancing vigor all woke up. And he went everywhere, saving those with sentience, never stopped to rest. Who? Master Empty Cloud, the recipient of the miracle. Righty. Now, take a look. What's going on? Something called virgin birth or immaculate conception. What is this? This is called hagiography or hagiography, soft G or hard G. What is it? Hagiography is writing of the lives of saints. Literal truth is not the goal of hagiography, but in every particular religion, there will be stories of saints. And the stories you often are miraculous, right? You have a dream of a tiger and you wake up pregnant. Be careful who you tell it to, because people will have serious doubts about you. They will think you're dreaming, you're deluded, you have mental issues. So I'm not suggesting that any of those was the case with Master Empty Cloud's mother. Um, it's that there are the writing of the lives of saints has a different purpose. If you go through what is called the Gaoseng Zhuan, the lives of the noble Sangha members as part of the Buddhist canon, you'll find many, 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 many similar stories. If you read the lives of the saints in Christianity or Islam or Hinduism, many times they will report similar kind of stories that the the saint passed through his or her mother's womb without taint, um, or that they came out and they refused to drink, they refused to nurse from their mother. They honored her too much to drink her milk. Or when they came out, they refused to play ordinary games with the other children. Instead, they would want a hill of dirt to be built, and they would sit on top of the hill of dirt and speak Dharma to their playmates, right? Stories like that are very common. And are they true? Well, you don't want to spend a lot of time disproving them. What's the point of that? You weren't there. We weren't there. I wasn't there. So I can't tell you, yes, this happened. But I know that there is a tendency to want to make more of the lives of those whom we worship than ordinary. Um, there's a need in our hearts to look uncritically at those whom we follow. If our teachers and our saints are just like everybody, then when we have to make a decision, when we have to choose between good and evil, uh, between right and wrong, it's easy to just kind of slip into, well, whatever, dude, it doesn't really matter. And that's a difficult place. So, what we do instead, if we are people of good faith and virtue, we remember the moral example of a teacher and we choose for the good and for the right and for the wholesome and for the virtuous. Because why? That's the model we were shown by the teacher. They're different, they're special. So they're the stories of their birth, of their childhood, are different from ordinary stories, different from ordinary people. That's called hagiography. And it serves a purpose. So at one point, when I was learning my trade as a sinologist, I was trained to be a student of Asian culture, Asian spirituality, Asian religions, sinology, Chinese culture. At as a 20-year-old graduate student, I was skeptical. I was cynical. I would laugh at these uh, expanded stories, exaggerated stories of beings who were bigger than life, purer than reality, because they seemed, you could see the motive. And you could, from a scientific point of view, you could just say, prove it. And the stories kind of fall apart. But being in the tradition and having met people who are truly, what do they say, 与众不同, really different from ordinary. And even if when you look behind the curtain, you discover real humanity among those whom we revere, there's a need in the human heart to hold certain principles, certain individuals, certain stories in higher esteem. Because why? We need those paragons, we need those icons of proper behavior to give our lives direction when times get hard. So we revere scriptures for the same reason. Bodhisattvas, arhats, Buddhas, sages, and prophets, and exemplars of the finest of humanity. We have in our hearts the seeds of evil, we have the seeds of good. Sometimes it seems like, at least in the press, in the media, that the seeds of evil are winning. They get more attention. But that doesn't diminish the presence of the seeds of good and our potential for transcendence, our potential for light and for goodness for all people. And so how we learn that as children is we follow examples. We follow what inspires us. And so having these stories of a tiger coming into a bedroom at night with a sage who's carrying a bodhisattva, both husband and wife see the dream, have the dream, see the presence, and then she wakes up pregnant. Yeah, miracles can happen. This is a miracle story. And I like believing in miracles. Not to say that everything that happens between heaven and earth is known to our puny little brains, right? So science cannot explain what happens at night when the lights go out. There's just lots and lots of wonderful things in the world that we need to simply take on faith and believe it. And as my sainted mother would say, you're better off. Number 2, here we go. Ready? 次年共赴以正具有益，复无尽志，见解明民，造福人群，上计提拔，专挑左泉州，盛大民心，玄德大清，化性俗美，尽力兴办福利社会事业，注重实际，不上虚问，虽至身名利养中，而不为名利所摇动，其哉其哉！宦海浮沉可足言，荣辱名利任变宣。沧海桑田尚无定，历史志数岂尽然。师父 does these so well, these verses that he writes. They're just great. All right, picture. Take a look. Notice it is Quanzhou Prefecture. He's got mountains. I don't know if they're mountains. I know it's on the coast. So it's a city wall. This is the fortifications from long before, hundreds of years. In Beijing right now, you can still see portions of the city wall. It was there from I think the Ming Dynasty. Notice so many people have their hands together in salute. The two individuals in the right-hand bottom corner, they're doing a traditional Chinese Kung Fu salute. He's being greeted at the door by somebody in a fancy hat who is doing an official salute. There are people on horseback. And who is receiving all this attention? It's somebody on a very fancy-looking horse, nice-looking horse. The horse looks like he's happy too. He's coming in with his hands in salute, followed by, I'm sure that is his wife. That's Master Empty Cloud's mom. And there are bodyguards traveling with them. This is the dad. And our fourth episode is about his character being transferred to assistant prefect in the Chenzhou government. The following year, because of his outstanding achievements in government service, because he completely fulfilled his duties, because he was incorruptible, quick witted, because he brought happiness to common people, the master's father was promoted and transferred to Chenzhou, where he became assistant to the prefect, a high ranking public servant. Profoundly understanding popular sentiments, he won the hearts of the people. He installed virtue in living beings. He influenced people so that the customs became lofty and wholesome. He tapped his strength to undertake endeavors beneficial to society. He was not fond of empty talk, and although he worked within the sphere of fame and profit, he was not in the least turned or motivated by them. Truly a remarkable person. Excellent translation, by golly. Afloat on the sea of politics, typo. How can it all be told? In honor or shame, profit or fame, he bore the shifts and changes at sea or in the mulberry fields, wherever he was found. How could historical records and annals document at all? So, changes at sea, what was that about? Chenzhou is down near the coast, and silk was one of their industries. So, mulberry fields are essential for the silk mm, caterpillar, silkworms, to eat and produce silk. Alrighty, what about it? More hagiography. What is it about? He was an outstanding official. How could he be so good? Who in the world is this good? Well, Master Empty Cloud came from a distinguished line of government caretakers, government officials, elected officials. Um, this is part of traditional Chinese culture has to do with social status and how do you climb to the top of society is you get there by examination. Education was the road to success in China. Oh my goodness. And of course, who could afford to be educated? Who could afford to leave the plow and not go out on the fields and make a living under the sun with the toil and sweat of your back and your bones, your muscles? Only the wealthy. However, here's the point. There's always in Chinese culture the um, the stereotype or the paradigm of the self-made righteous scholar who, poor though he may have been, and it was almost always he, rarely was it female, poor though he may have been, he was able to find a way to education, and then because of his innate superior talents, he was able to go to school, get educated, and then take the exam and rise up through the ranks to become prime minister or a virtuous prefect, right? Not so much emperor, that was harder. But to become a virtuous person and serve all of China, that road was open. So, hagiography here. Look at what they say about him. He did all his work. He didn't simply go out and get tributes or, uh, you know, dun the people, milk the people for more money, for taxes, which often happened when they were not virtuous. He couldn't be corrupted. You couldn't bribe him. Now, how hard that is, oh my gosh. Quick witted. He was intelligent himself. And look at the compassion being praised. He was compassionate. He brought happiness to ordinary folks. The master's father was promoted and transferred to Zhenzhou. higher job. Um, a good emperor would move his public servants around. Um, if you got reputation for being a good administrator, you could be given a bigger job in a bigger town, or sometimes, oh boy, if there was a lawless place where there was an absence of good government, you could be sent to a much, much less desirable post, but where your services were needed. So these stories fill up Chinese history. This social service, this examination system whereby you, through your own merits, you got to serve. And of course, with service came fame, wealth, history, historic, status for your family. And then not just you, but everybody in your clan would gain benefits. So their history books are full of these stories, as well as the stories of people who abused and corrupted the opportunities for personal wealth, and who were brutal and despicable in their behavior to people. Those stories are there too. So, Master Empty Cloud's dad became assistant to the prefect. Now, look what he did. He profoundly understood how people felt. He won their hearts because he was kind, and he instilled virtue in them through example. People would just say, oh, I want to be like him. He influenced people so that the customs were lofty and wholesome, tapped his strength to undertake endeavors beneficial to society. He was not fond of gossip. Interesting that that's an item that is brought out. The Chinese says, here it is, it says, 不赏虚文, was not one to waste his time in idle words. He worked within the sphere of fame and profit. Oh yeah, this is where families got rich, was, you know, dipping into the pot. But he was not turned or motivated by them. Master Hua says, "qi zai," how rare, to find an official with clean sleeves, whose sleeves are not packed with gold. Afloat on the sea of politics, oh, too many stories. In honor, shame, profit, fame, he was able to weather the the ups and downs, whether it was at sea, meaning with commerce, or in the mulberry fields with industry. Wherever he was, he did his best and brought benefit to all. Look at the picture here. That's why he's loved. Yeah. So, what is this? This is Confucian stuff. Confucius wanted every official to be like Master Empty Cloud's father, and of course, rarely was this the case. So, how interesting here. The, the real uh, crunch of human history lies between the ideal and the actual. What we're seeing in this hagiography, which it is, was he really like this? Certainly, we can get the principle from it that he gave blessings to his family through his virtuous conduct. Um, this kind of ideal way of 为人民服务, service to the people, Mao Zedong, that was his number one uh, battle cry, not battle cry, number one um, epithet, which was serve the people, 为人民服务, in service to the people, instead of in service to your own wealth, in service to greed. Do people actually do it? That's the question. And as I say, the human history is the story between the ideal and the actual. How fall we far short. How, there we go. How fall we far short. How short we fall. How far we fall. Away from this ideal, to the point where, public leaders determine that it's in their interest to invade a neighboring country. Not only are you not interested in bringing benefits to your own nation, you want to go out and destroy the lives of others, neighbors, not even your own people. So that's the story of history, isn't it? Here's an example of how it can be done right. And so Master Hua, Shifu, um, many people don't know, but during the years after City of 10,000 Buddhas was established, um, Master Hua would spend his time, a lot of time, on the highway, on Highway 101, driving north from San Francisco, arriving at CTDB, sometimes convening class at 6 in the morning, when he would teach us what? Confucius. He would teach us the four books, the Analects, the Great Learning, the Doctrine of the Mean, and the Mencius. And then he would teach us the classic of filial respect. And then he would write essays and verses praising those virtues. At night, of course, we heard the Buddha Sutras. But during the day, Shifu wanted us to understand how to put the Dharma into use. And it wasn't only Buddhist Dharma. It was, what do they say? 学佛做人，人道尽，佛道成. So we learn from the Buddha, but the lessons have to do with being good people. When the path to being a good person is walked to its ultimate point, just that is Buddhahood. All of the virtues of humanity perfected is the Buddha. That's the Buddha nature uncovered in our own nature. So we learned from our teacher about these kinds of exemplars. Now, is it hagiography? Who cares? It's a lesson. There's principle here. And of course, people fall short. Sometimes we go far in the other direction. Not only fall short, where our lives are harmful to the public, but that doesn't diminish the need to tell the ideal, to share with everyone this story of how people can go right. Imagine if our leaders were this way. Imagine if in the worlds that we lead, is it your own family? You're the ruler of your family. So how do you administer your family? Are you incorruptible? Are you quick-witted? Do you bring happiness to your family? I hope so. I hope I can do it. Do you understand how they think? Do you win the hearts of your family members? Do you instill virtue in living beings? Do you influence through your example so that lives are lofty and wholesome? Do you do things that benefit society? I ask myself these questions. Do we spend our time in gossip, or are we not fond of empty talk? So, oh boy, yeah. So there we go. And it's a biography of a Buddhist saint for sure, Master Empty Cloud, but the first lessons are about his parents, so we understand where he came from. Got it? Yeah, very cool. So much to learn here. I wanted to ask Katrina and Brian to please type into the chat box how we can get a copy of Bright Moon. There's a new book, a children's book, beautifully done, written by Brian Conroy, illustrated by Katrina Milner, about another kind of exemplar. And Bright Moon is a wonderful story. Okay, I just saw something pop in. There it goes. Take a look. Ook, there we go. Bright Moon. There it is. It's an amazing story about a young woman and her grandmother. And the story goes that every every year during the Mid Autumn Festival, uh, the girl, Ming, listens eagerly as grandmother tells her stories of the moon. She grows up to be a young woman and she hears the moon parable about a story told by the Buddha. And for the rest of her life, the story is a guiding light for Ming. She becomes the storyteller as the book continues. So, wonderful story, um, published, written and published by our own community. Brian, and the illustrations are just spectacular. Look at these incredible illustrations. They're really lovely. I have my own copy. We have a monastery copy here. So it is a book for kids, but it is very special. And I highly encourage folks to investigate Bright Moon and also on our own to go out and create more of these wonderful stories. Um, and one of we had our Ulambana gathering here last Saturday, a reunion of our Great Strength Academy, and I remembered people asking me, "What makes you happy?" We heard, and my answer was always, thing that made me happiest was telling stories to our young people after sutra lecture on a Saturday night and watching their eyes go blink and light up when the principle of the story connected. When it goes home, you can kind of see it. You can see them go, oh, yeah, wonderful, wonderful stuff. And I used to go to the Berkeley Public Library where there's an entire floor of the library is devoted to children. It's the children's library floor. Oh gosh, it's a wonderful place. And I would comb the shelves for stories that had heroes or heroines who were ideally, if they were Asian, it was the best. And if they were girls, it was the best. So I would look for stories where the girl goes out up into the mountains, into the caves, and slays the dragon because the boys have all been eaten. Her brothers, she's the last one, and she kills the dragon. I would tell those stories, and oh, the boys and girls would, yeah, you know. So that's what made me happiest was seeing the connection. Yihuan tells us that September 29 is Zhongqiu, Mid-Autumn Festival. Okay, on mid-autumn this year, we're going to make sure that everybody knows the story of Bright Moon. So, yeah, indeed. Will the festival be streaming? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. There, we don't. Traditionally, it's not a Buddhist festival. It's a Chinese culture festival that has real lessons for filiality. Okay, people have already begun to buy the book. Liz has already bought it. Yeah, good stuff. Um, I have another recommendation. Haha. We'll take a look here, right there. I'm going to take everybody out. Now, for folks listening in China, this is be a challenge because it's on YouTube. And YouTube is not readily available in China. Maybe somebody can download it and post it to Shouhu or something. This is a concert, a music concert that happened. Let's see here. It happened this last Sunday, and it happened here at the monastery. There it is. I put it in the chat box. And it's a Buddhist story song circle concert. You'll see there are 5 musicians, 5 storytellers on stage, myself one of them. And we had this event last Sunday. It's the 3rd one of concerts by the Berkeley Folk Music Song Circle. Buddhist Folk Music Song Circle. All of the people on the stage are early folk music movement, the folk boom of the 1960s, people who grew up in that and kept their connection to acoustic music, didn't plug in, and now have become Buddhist and are still making music, but making Buddhist music. So that concert, 2 hours long, is there available on YouTube. We'll try to find a way to get it over to so Chinese listeners can also listen in. I'm singing. Jerry Xu did a wonderful job with the production using 5 different cameras, so you can see the the videography was just superb. Here's Betsy, and here's James. Let's see here. James is standing right here. James Barras, and I'm I'm singing 2 Guanyin Bodhisattva songs as well. So I'm in there singing along. When your soul is weary, call on Guan Shi. When your soul is weary, call on Guan Shi. When your soul is weary, call on Guan Shi. Raise your voice and call on Guan Shi. Give the guitar a verse. Here we go. Okay, so yeah, so I sang too. Anyway, that's available. If Cliff can download it and up the GCDR website, that'd be wonderful. It's a fun concert. Some really good music. So people are welcome to do that. That's going to just about do it for us today. Thank you all for joining. We're so glad that you're all here. We're back next week. When you hear my voice, it will be coming to you from the Gold Coast of Queensland. I'm on my way back to Australia in 48 hours. Looking forward to being back in Australia. And for those of you listening in on Zoom today, it'll be no different. It'll just be a voice coming out of the speaker. But I will be back in Australia and can't wait. So otherwise, my Saturday night lecture, the Avatamsaka Sutras Entering the Dharma Realm chapter, will come from the Buddha Hall at Gold Coast Dharma Realm. The Sunday night Avatamsaka lecture from City of 10,000 Buddhas will also be from Australia. So should be there for a number of months, but we'll be back in California before you knew I was gone. What do they say? How can we miss you if you won't go away, right? So you're welcome for the lecture. You're welcome. Let's dedicate our merit. We're going to share the screen here. I'd like to invite you to make a wish and send out your goodness to the world. However you would like to package it, we certainly need more goodness in the world. Here we go. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night, because our hearts are one. this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, before we're done, we can bow to the Buddhas. Ready? I've got my bell. You're welcome to join me if you care to do so. Here we go. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Alrighty, that's going to do it for us for this week. We will see you next week. Be well, everyone. Amitofo. Bye now.